Okay, thank you, everyone. Welcome to the council meeting of November 14th, 2022. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda, please? Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Gray. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We don't have any presentations, but I'd like to invite the community to have comments, questions. If you could state your name and your street, that would be great.
Patty Whitehouse, 5311 Rocky Point Road. This will be familiar to those who have been to council meetings before, but new from me to the new council. Would you please make a point of remembering to push your button and speak directly into your microphone? When you turn your head, we can't hear you anymore. So if you would do both of those things, that would be much appreciated by the people trying to hear what you're saying. And I wonder if we could also, if it would be possible, to get a microphone for the CAO as well. Her comments are often always pertinent and often very helpful and interesting, and it would be helpful for those of us listening to be able to hear them as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
Hi, Joan Rosenberg and 969 Kangaroo Road. And I wanted to, do I give any more information? No. I wanted to speak to something that you put on the agenda, which I'm really very delighted that you did, which is the decision whether or not to sign, to be a signatory on the United for Old Growth Declaration. And I just wanted to remind the councillors here that in 2016, the Metchosin Council did come out with a statement against old growth logging on Vancouver Island and did take it to the UBCM, where it was, keep forgetting the word, but anyway, it was passed by the UBCM. So that was 2016. We've come a long way. I think this declaration takes into account, it is our first signatory is I can't believe I'm shaking, if you notice, the Union of BC Indian Chiefs. And we have taken most of the wording of the declaration is from their own wording. So you're in good company if you decide to sign it. There's over 100 signatories now. So we hope you've read it and go forward with it. And if there's any clarification, feel free to ask.
Okay, thank you.
Rick Perron, Chalister Court. Do you want the number on Chalister Court? That's good enough, yeah. So I'm going to read mine because I'm not as smooth. I don't want to miss any details. But this is in support of what Joan was saying. Dear Mayor and Council, I stand here before you and wish to compliment you upon your achievements to sit there in front of me. The reason I stand here is with regards to the correspondence included in the agenda, a letter penned by Susan Gage and submitted by Joan Rosenberg, asking for the support of Metchosin Council in adopting the declaration to protect old growth forests. You could say I'm practicing my tree hugging, except for this time around, it isn't a practice, it's a real thing. And I'm here to add my voice in support to urge you to sign and endorse the declaration titled, United We Stand for Old Growth Forests. I'd like to point out that in a recent election, you've achieved a majority vote, and the citizens who elected you expect you to represent them in manners congruent to their values. These voters, your constituents, live, breathe, farm, hike, play, and shop here with the ideals of coexisting with nature, with creative and complex ecosystems that solely rely on us to protect them by leaving them alone and not by taking them down with our boots, saws, and machinery. In closing, I would like to remind you that actually that's what Joan had just said about the Union of BC Municipalities passing a resolution by a wide margin calling on the province to amend Vancouver Island Vancouver Island land use plan to protect remaining old growth forests. I believe Metchosin is one of those municipalities that voted in favor of that resolution. So let's see how creative you can be with your signatures. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
Well, welcome, new council. Your first meeting. Jennifer Burgess, 3837 Duke Road. I am actually giving you a request to advise us of who the committee appointees are. It actually just came up in your finance committee meeting on the question that Councillor Shuken had about the costs of West Shore Recreation. You will have an appointee, I imagine, to the West Shore Rec, but you also have appointees to your 4 main committees, whether they have the same names or not as the previous committee. So I think both those levels of committee appointees are very important to us as citizens to know who we can address questions to and how we help you manage things. So I would ask for those lists. Thank you.
Thank you. That will be outlined in the mayor's report.
Dan O'Connell, 969 Kangaroo. So I'm going to speak in support of the Old Growth Unity Rally. Just to say that I just got back from Caslow yesterday. I was working there the last 2 weeks, and when I go there, I like to go to the forests and see what's going on there. It took me 2 hours to get to a grove of old growth trees in that valley. It's been so heavily logged over the last century. And even last fall, there was a game camera put up at Meadow Creek, which is north, and there was 68 logging trucks a day pulling wood out of that place. The amount of wood that's coming out of the interior forest is unbelievable. And it's, I mean, COP27 is talking about deforestation, et cetera. I mean, old growth is one piece of this. Like, it's not even addressing the issue of deforestation. Pine beetle, burns, like the amount of forest cover we're losing is incredible. So just to say that we've gone from global warming to climate emergency, and to wait or kind of dither at this point, I'm reminded of the Red Cross when they dithered about the fact that there was HIV in the blood system and they decided not to do anything. They're no longer existing. Like, it was, we know what's happening, we have to act. We don't have to act, but to dither now is just existentially so stupid. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I ask a question of Joan, please? Joan, I looked at the list of signatories. There wasn't a lot of municipalities or districts on that. Could you address that? That will be a question that I will get.
It's a great question. I'm on the organizing committee, and so, and the committee that's finding signatories. And so no one had thought of taking it to the municipalities. And then, because this is my municipality, I brought it to you first. In my research, looking at the UBCM and reading the other municipalities that were outspoken in trying to stop or protect old growth on Vancouver Island, we will go further and start. We have till February to get signatures, so this is just a start. But I am also I'm interested in how you councillors approach this, and if you choose not to, I'd love to know your reasons why before I go forward to other municipalities. So, you know, I think it would be great feedback for us to hear your pro or cons with this.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, you just got stuck as the first because you're my municipality. So.
Okay. Pardon?
May I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Joan, the rally's been postponed from November 26th to what's the date that it'll be held?
It's February, I believe it's February in the 20s.
Is the 25th?
But I think the rally is not really the issue for you. Yeah. No, that's going to be the day of the Santa Claus parade, November 26th, so we thought that would be a bit of a conflict. Although we would get a crowd.
Just so everyone knows, then the rally isn't happening in November.
No, it's not happening. Thanks, Steve, yeah.
Hi, I'm Bev Bacon, Metchosin resident, and I won't repeat what I've already said because my letter's in a pink, and Andy McKinnon wasn't able to be here tonight, but his letter's in a pink. Carol Carmen contacted me that she's out of town, but she strongly endorses this move for you to sign on to the old growth protection. And what I'd like to point out that I didn't think of in my brief note to you is that you aren't asking the provincial government to do anything that they haven't already promised to do. They agree wholeheartedly with saving old growth forest. They believe wholeheartedly that a tree is worth more standing. They say it. They have meetings about it. They plan to make a plan, but they haven't saved the trees yet. So you're only asking them to do what they've already promised to do. And the other thing is the federal government is on board with, what is it, $50 million that they want to give us. And the provincial government hasn't picked up on that. They want to give us money to protect old growth forest, and the provincial government isn't availing themselves of it. So it's nothing out of order or out of line. The provincial government isn't going to argue with you. They'll agree wholeheartedly. Just put their feet to the fire, please.
Thank you, Bev. Anybody else? Okay, Bev has reminded me, if that's okay, we'll move on. Bev's reminded me that I forgot at the beginning of the meeting to include the recent correspondence, the pink. So if we could take a step back, if I could have a motion to add the correspondence to the agenda, that would be great.
I move that we add the correspondence to the agenda.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Sorry about that, and thank you. Thanks, Bev. Okay, moving on from public participation, we've got a series of adoption of minutes. I'd like to take them all individually, if that would be okay, starting on page 3 of the agenda. Okay, could I have a motion to approve the special council meeting of August 16th?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. The council meeting of October 3rd, 2022 on page 5 of your agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. This third 4C inaugural council meeting on page 9 of the agenda. Could I have a motion? Moved by Councillor Shukin, second by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And then the last one, the special council meeting of November 8th. Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Discussion. If not, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. So we don't have any receipt of the minutes. We'll move on to the mayor's report addressing Jennifer Burgess. Oh. Mm-hmm.
Oh. I'm just going to point out that final minutes has all the committee appointments that Jennifer was asking about.
Okay. Moving on to the mayor's report, I would like to announce the following standing committees, followed by council appointments. So we'll just go through them all, if that's okay with everybody at the table. Okay. So, with the council standing committee, the following council standing committees have been established by the mayor and myself, with the following councillor appointed as chair and alternate chair to the respective standing committees. The finance committee be Councillor Donaldson, alternate Councillor Gray. Community planning portfolio committee, Councillor Shukin, alternate Councillor Epp. The environment and natural areas committee, Councillor Gray, the alternate Councillor Donaldson. Public Works and Protective Service Committee, Councillor Epp, the alternate is Councillor Shukin. Moving on to the Council Advisory Select Committee, Councillor Liaison. Agriculture Advisory Select Committee is Councillor Shelley Donaldson. Environmental Advisory Select Committee, Councillor Steve Gray. Heritage Advisory Select Committee, Councillor Sherry Epp. Parks and Trails Advisory Select Committee, Councillor Jay Shukin. Public Hearing Chair, Councillor Shukin, Jay. The Tamuk Treaty Advisory Committee, Mayor Mary-Therese Little. Moving on to the F, CRD Board Appointments, Capital Regional District, Capital Region Hospital Regional Board, and Capital Region Housing Corporation, Mayor Mary-Therese Little. Capital Region District Board, Capital Region Hospital District Board, and Capital Region Housing Corporation, Councillor Steve Gray. Capital Region Water Supply Commission, Councillor Steve Gray. Capital Region Water Supply Commission, Councillor Shelley Donaldson. Capital Region Wanda Fuca Distribution Commission, Councillor Shelley Donaldson. Capital Region Director, or District Wanda Fuca Water Distribution Commission, alternate, Councillor Steve Gray. Capital Region District Arts Commission, Councillor Sherry Epp. Capital Region Climate Action Intermunicipal Task Force, Councillor Steve Gray. Capital Region District Regional Housing Trust Fund Commission, Councillor Gray. Capital Region Emergency Telecommunication, or CREST, Councillor Sherry Epp. Capital Region Invasive Species Partnership, or CRISP, Councillor Steve Gray. Capital Region Invasive Species Partnership, CRISP alternative, is Councillor Jay Shukin. Moving on to G, other committees and boards. Greater Victoria Public Library Board, Mayor Mary-Therese Little. Greater Victoria Labour Relations Association, Mayor Little. Greater Victoria Labour Relations Association alternate board director, Councillor Jay Shukin. Greater Victoria Labour Relations Associate delegate to the AGM, Mayor Little. Victoria Family Court and Youth Justice Committee, Mayor Little. West Shore RCMP Community Policing Committee, Councillor Epp. West Shore Parks and Recreation Society Board, delegate to the AGM, Councillor Shelley Donaldson. West Shore Parks and Recreation Society Board, Councillor Sherry Epp. Moving on to H, council members as community liaisons. Shiano First Nations or Beecher Bay, Councillor Jay Shukin. Metchosin Arts and Cultural Center, MACA, Councillor Sherry Epp. Metchosin Seniors Association, Councillor Sherry Epp. Metchosin School Site, Councillor Epp. Metchosin Day Committee, Councillor Shukin. Municipal Property and Grounds Group, Councillor Jay Shukin. Metchosin Hall Society, Councillor Epp. West Shore Chamber of Commerce, Councillor Jay Shukin. And Metchosin Producers Association, or Farmers Market, including the Farmers Market, is Councillor Jay Shukin. So those are the appointments. They are in the agenda. These are publicly available. We had discussed this at an in-camera meeting, and this was a conclusion of the Riser report. Do you need any motions to accept that, or is that enough for the mayor's report? Okay, thank you. And I have nothing else to say, being this our second meeting. We've been in office, I guess, 6 days, so I don't have a lot to say, but I will in the future. Okay, moving on. there's no business arising. Reports for action. Number A, which is on page 19 of your agenda package. This is the Chief Elections Officer's report, the 2022 general local election results. So first of all, get to page 19 of your agenda. Okay. And there's recommendations on page 21. I'll take a motion to receive and to adopt their recommendation on page 21.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson, that Council received the Chief Election Officer's report regarding the District of Metchosin 2022 general election. Discussion. Councillor Shukin.
Thank you, Mayor Little. And I just want to pass on a huge vote of congratulations and a bravo to the people of Metchosin. And with our voter turnout being 47%, it was one of the highest in British Columbia, and nearly doubled some of the other municipalities in the CRT. So wonderful.
I agree. Any other comments? I'd like to pass on my thanks to the staff at the District of Metchosin. It went on quite seamlessly, and that's a testament to their ability and their experience. So I'd like to thank them all for their efforts towards the election. So and Councillor Gray.
And thanks to the Chief Election Officer, herself, and all of the staff who worked, and the various people who were paid, and all the volunteers.
Anybody else want to comment? With seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to the staff report in item B. This is on page 25. This is the UBCM Regional Community to Community Forum Grant Program, the grant application.
Mayor Little, I would like to make a motion that council approve in principle the $5,000 grant application for the 2022-23 UBCM Regional Community to Community Forum Program, and authorize yourself, the mayor, and the CAO to execute any agreements related to a successful application.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Gray. Discussion. Did you want any more information regarding this grant? No?
Okay, so just ask, would Councillor Shukin lead this exercise if we get approval, being that he's the liaison with Shannon First Nation?
Would, I
Sure.
don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, if
I
of course,
imagine,
yeah.
considering their first bulleted item is the reconciliation and planning, I
Yeah.
would imagine so.
We can definitely talk about how it would work and roll out, but yeah, I'd be happy to take that on. So.
I mean, it seems to be about meetings and getting together and the liaison role that you're taking on, so it makes sense that you would lead it. I just wanted to put that on the table tonight.
Any other points about the grant application? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, moving along. This is number 9, reports for information. So this is receiving reports for information on page 27, the District of Metchosin Building Inspection Report. Okay, so you've had a chance to look at it. Could I have a motion to receive the report for information?
Move receipt.
Moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Gray. Do you have any questions, discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, the second report is the District of Metchosin Public Communication Report statistics. Statistics are always very interesting to me, so could I have a motion to receive these?
So.
Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Discussion. It's on page 31 of your agenda package. Okay. If you look to the very bottom to the totals, 220 and 217, they're about the same. There's some variation in the communications report. Any other comments, discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to correspondence. We had quite a few members of the public talk about the item aid. Susan Gage, the United for Old Growth Forest. This is on page 33 of your agenda package. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes.
I move that the District of Metchosin sign the declaration, United We Stand for Old Growth Forest. And I'd speak to that motion if it's seconded.
Say that again. I didn't get that last part.
I'll speak in favor of the motion if the motion is seconded.
Okay. It's the motion on the table is moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Epp. Discussion.
Thanks, Mayor Little. Thanks to the people who presented tonight and for providing us this declaration to look at. So thanks to Joan and Rick, Andy and Bev, who've all provided submissions tonight and either in writing or in speaking. I could talk at length, but just to remember, as people point out, in 2016, Metchosin Councillor Andy McKinnon sponsored a motion to protect Vancouver Island's remaining old-growth forests. It was approved at the Association of Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities in April of 2016, and then adopted by UBCM with a very wide margin, as Rick pointed out, in September 2016. We received an email in the pinks from Dr. Andy McKinnon, PhD, encouraging Metchosin to add our signatures, and he's pointing out that all the pledges that have been made, we're not getting much action. It's true in COP27, which is going on right now, we're talking about, that's sort of the backdrop that's been happening for 7 days now. And during that meeting, or just as the meeting was happening, the UN Secretary General said that we're on a highway to climate hell, and our foot is stuck on the accelerator. He said solutions lie in human action. Our ancient forests are steadily being knocked down here in British Columbia, and I think that they are key to our survival. We think of the Amazon in Brazil and the forests here in British Columbia, Canada. From my perspective, we must stop logging old-growth ecosystems. You know, we're cutting down our trees now for the finely grained wood, and some of them are being cut down to grind up into wood pellets sent to the UK to generate, or burned to generate electricity. It seems a terrible shame in a situation that we're facing right now. COP26, so the last grouping of people talking about the climate and the urgency, Canada, along with many others, committed to halt and reverse forest loss by 2030. The problem is that 2030 will be far too late. So much will be destroyed if it's not stopped now. The declaration is imperfectly written for a government to sign on. So if you take a look at it, just to make one point, it raises partisan issues with the recognition of the NDP party rather than the provincial government, and this is problematic. But let's not let perfection be the enemy of good. We are facing a global climate emergency on planet Earth and a biodiversity crisis. Let's act like it's an emergency. I ask my fellow councillors and Mayor Little to support this motion and join others who want to keep old-growth forests standing in British Columbia.
Thank you, Councillor Gray. Councillor Shukin, did you wish to speak to this?
I do. Thanks very much, Mayor Little. I have to confess, I am wrestling with this, and it's not because of the sentiments expressed in, it's not because of the ideas and the concepts expressed in the letter. I think they're actually very clearly written, and actually I don't have any concerns about partisan nature and all that. Again, I think the letter is fact driven, with, of course, the passion befitting the subject. My concern, though, is that it originates from environmental non-government organizations and comes from essentially that that outlook, that perspective, which, and of course I admire many of the organizations that are part of this. The question I have is, where do we as a local government fit within this? I would feel very differently if this was a letter written by a local government and signed on with other local governments. I believe, though, that if it was, it would be written in a different way and with a scope that we would be able to address and more properly work with. So again, I stand as concerned on this subject, like many others, and I'm actually at this council table because I'm very committed to taking action on the environment. And again, it sounds really contradictory, but that's where I'm at. I'm reluctant to sign on to this simply because of the nature of where it originates. And again, I would feel very differently if it came from a local government source. So I'm actually quite interested to hear my other council colleagues' views on this as well. But thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else at the table wish to speak? Councillor Epp.
Well, I do agree with Councillor Schuch, and I mean, I think it's really, really important. It's just, and it's just been going on far too long that there just hasn't been anything done to really protect old growth. But so I'm wondering about the relationship of the groups to a municipal government, and if it's reasonable to think that maybe it would be put on the MIASC agenda to kind of look into how a municipality would fit in with this, so that we can do it right and get it right, and then come back to council with a recommendation.
Okay, that sounds good as well. Councillor Donaldson, did you want a moment?
Yeah, gotta push the button down. I agree. I think that the old growth is significant to our livelihood here. I'm not even sure how much old growth we actually have left in Metchosin. I certainly would like to know more of that. Coming from a family that logged many, many years ago, and they certainly didn't do clear cut like they are doing right now, was much more selective. But there is great value in protecting what we have on this island, especially in this province. It is a renewable resource, but we are losing to things like the pine beetle and forest fires and those sorts of things. Is this the place in this government? I question the same, and I would support what Councillor Epps suggests in getting some feedback from our advisory committee as well. A little bit more information would be good for locally.
Okay. I'll speak, and then we'll go a second round. I have to say that I struggled with this too, and that's why I asked the question about the different municipalities. I also wondered, I didn't see the Shiano First Nations on here, and were they also asked to be signatories to that or not? Nope. Anyways, that would be a question that I would ask Mias to also investigate. And in saying all this, I'm not saying that I'm opposed to this. I think I said throughout the campaign that we are in a climate crisis, logging old growth forests in particular. I don't agree actually that it's a renewable resource, because it's renewable in 150, 100, 300 years. We can't get those back once they've been logged. So I think that's actually a good approach. What Councillor Epp has suggested, to forward this to MIASC. We will be forwarding other items to them. I'm hearing at the council table that everybody is in favor of this letter. And maybe this is not the appropriate letter for us to sign, but I would personally commit to having discussions with Joan Rosenberg and anybody else that you would like to have in those discussions. I think it's reasonable for us to forward this to MIASC, get comment to advise us, and move forward. Anybody else wish to speak to this? Councillor Schuch.
Thanks, Mayor Little. I think Councillor Epp's suggestion was a fantastic one, but I don't know if it's a matter, maybe I'll just ask you for further clarity of forwarding the letter itself for comment, but maybe more so the question of the role of local governments in either questions of protecting old growth forests or even in the significant environmental issues of our day.
So you're
Like-
asking us whether this is within our authority?
No, it's really the task for MEASC. What are we going to ask them to do? And I think it is along the lines of what Councillor Epp was saying, but I don't know if we, and you know, the task might even be identified studies or documents or position papers that we can read, again, specific to local governments on these questions. Again, just as a suggestion, but I think it's a great idea to, address this with,
Okay,
Okay,
that
thank
was
you.
your intent, Councillor Epp. Yeah. Okay, anybody else wish to speak? Yeah, Councillor Epp, Gray.
So I'm again speaking in favor of the motion on the table. The I guess to me it's a little bit about leadership, and well, it's not a renewable resource, by the way. Once you cut down these ancient forests, they don't grow back again. Trees will grow back, but you don't return to the biodiversity that was there before, even the species that were there before. I'm not clear to everybody, but that's just not how it works. Once you cut these things down, they don't come back. And it's my guess that as the weather's changing and the summers we're getting on the coast here, once you cut them down, they're for sure not coming back. Whether any trees will come back of any significance, I don't know. I wonder if we're not desertifying the coast here now, and we'll be living in quite a different environment. At any rate, I'll just touch on the idea, and then someone else can move a motion in that regard. But with regards to MEASC, ask them what? The role of local government. Well, what happened in 2016 was that local government said we should stop cutting old growth forest. Local government then brought that to as I mentioned earlier, the Vancouver Island Association of Municipalities of Local Governments, and they said, damn right, let's stop logging. Then it went to UBCM. Representatives from all around the province said, let's stop this. So that's the answer. If the question is what should local governments do, they should advocate for this kind of things. That's our experience, and I think it's positive in terms of positions that have been taken. The question about, so that's, I don't know that's appropriate to send it to MEASC. Either we want to do it or we don't. I don't know what MEASC could tell us about local government. They're kind of an environmental advisory committee, as I understand. So the question might be, if you cut down the forest, can they grow back? Or what question do you want to pose to them? So maybe whoever moves that motion could lay out a little bit about what's the environmental question we're asking them, not the political question. Thank you.
Actually, okay, go ahead. I guess what I'm hearing around the table, Councillor Gray, is that there's no opposition to this letter. They just want more information. They want some time to digest it. We've also got, I agree that we need to take bold actions. We need to take leadership, but we do have until February or maybe January, if I'm seeing a head nod there. So what I'm hearing is that while you may be on board and have done your homework regarding this, there's some other members at the council table that would like more information and advice from a committee that we trust. And the question I would suspect it would be is, what is your opinion? Would you advise us to sign on to this? I suspect that would be the question. We would forward the whole package to them. Anybody else want to chime in?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Little. Again, it's I'm challenged by the possibility of signing on to this letter. And again, it's not the ideas, the concepts, or the urgency to protect old growth forests. I have reluctance, though, again, only from within the scope that we work in. And I think it's really important, if we're going to work and maximize that scope, that we stay as dedicated as we can to it, not be confined to it necessarily, but yeah, stay true to it. Again, the fact that this has come, it originates with environmental non-government organizations, does say to me that it is something that is beyond us in terms of the nature of the letter. Again, not in terms of putting our names on it. So, yeah, I will continue to oppose the motion, but I would look to do something with Miask in terms of finding a way that we, as a local government, can support this issue. Thank you.
Okay, let's deal with the motion on the table
Yeah.
first before
Yeah.
we talk about Miask.
Sorry,
Just
if I
before?
could I add one more thing? Like, sorry, I believe the points that Councillor Gray is raising about the support for protecting old growth forests in terms of the motions that were made at UBCM, that's I guess what I'm talking about, is those were done within a municipal context. The issue was handled within a municipal context. So that's the type of thing that's sort of in the spirit of what I'm talking about here in terms of concerns about the letter. So thank you.
And I have to admit, I haven't gone back and looked at that 2016 resolution, so I'd like to do that as well. Before we move to Councillor Gray, anybody else that hasn't spoken for a second time wish to speak before we move on? No? Councillor Gray. Oh, sorry, Councillor Epp.
Last minute. I just wondered if there's time, like it is like January, February. I mean, do we have time to just hold off on this, or how important is it to you that we sign this like right now?
The sooner, if you are going to sign it, of course, the sooner you do it, the more you enable us to move forward talking to other municipalities. Because it's the hardest thing to do is to get the first municipality to sign on. And I remind you, it's called United for Old Growth. We're simply trying to get people from all walks of life to sign on, and from all organizations. That's why we're looking at very diverse groups. If you look at the United Church of Canada has signed, the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment have signed. We're looking at as much diversity as possible, all of us coming from different streams. So that's why we're looking at municipalities, because we're not leaving anyone out. That's the name, United for Old Growth.
Okay.
So yes, to answer your question, the sooner the better for the whole movement, but you've got until February.
Okay.
So take the time that is necessary.
Okay. Okay, anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Gray.
So I'm hearing the discussion here, and we can move on to call the question in a moment. I'm not, I want to acknowledge the awkwardness of the letter, as Jay's pointing out, being prepared by non-governmental organizations and then asking government to sign. And that's what I'm referring to as it being an imperfect notion. But rather than saddling a committee to study whether or not we want to do it, if we don't want to do it, that's fine. Like, I think the issue of taking more time is we maybe need more time, but I'm not sure a committee is going to help. It's like referring to them for that seems weak. What I might suggest then is that if this motion goes down in smoke tonight, that I bring this to Miask for a question about drafting a letter for us to sign about ending old growth logging again. So we don't need to go through the whole declaration process or have them study this. Certainly they can use that as material for doing so, but if we're not intending to sign it, I think asking them to look it over and tell us, yep, that's a good letter, is not necessarily going to convince anybody of anything. So there we go.
Yeah, I don't know whether we're intending to sign the letter because we haven't. What I'm hearing at the table is that there's one person at least that wants to sign it tonight. There's others that need more time, more documentation. Does anybody else wish to speak to this? And what I'm hearing is that there is an appetite for more information. There's no, as I hear it, no opposition to the principle in terms of opposing old growth logging, but there are questions regarding the process and whether this is an appropriate avenue for us to voice our concerns to the provincial government. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of signing on to being an initial signatory to this declaration this evening, I call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion defeated. Okay, secondly, I'd like to talk about whether we're going to send this to MIASC or how we're going to gather the information. I'd like to make a promise, a commitment to the speakers this evening to reach out to them, to meet with them in the next 2 weeks, I think, because we have a council meeting in December that we could bring this back to. I don't think it's worth it. We've got lots of other things to address with the budget going forward. If we could have this settled in December, that would be great. Councillor Shukin. MIASC is meeting, I think, next week.
Okay. I agree with Councillor Gray that I don't see a huge amount of value in turning this over to MIASC. But I'll just not make that thoroughly, though. Like, in terms of weighing the merits of the letter, I don't think there's much value in that. I think it's a very solid letter. What I could see, though, is I wouldn't mind their opinion, for sure, but the one thing, again, that would personally give me comfort is if we could find a way for local governments to express their views on this issue and do it as a set of local governments. And even today I was talking with somebody from one of our, a fellow councillor in another municipality, and we talked about this issue, and both of us struggled not with the issue itself, but with signing this particular letter. I'm wondering if there is room to create, to develop another letter where local governments might consider signing on this issue. So do that. And I would volunteer to take the first shot at maybe gathering some names on this.
Okay.
I might, even if I would like to get some advice possibly on doing that and how one would go about doing it. Mm-hmm. But I see that as much more appropriate than waiting on MIASC's views and basing what we do specifically on that, because Councillor Gray is right. It is a political question that mm-hmm. And we should be weighing that. So
okay.
I'd be interested in other councillors' thoughts on that.
Okay. Anybody else at the table? I would also like to ask Councillor Gray if you could pull that resolution from 2016 so that we all have it just to read it for our own, not to debate. I mean, it's already been out there. It was already accepted. I just don't have it at hand.
Certainly, I can send you an email later this evening.
Okay. Actually, not just me. If you could do that to all of council, that'd be great. Okay. And any other information that we need, Councillor Shukin, you're going to take a first crack at some.
Well, what I would propose to do is test with some of my counterparts in
the West Shore.
Yeah, possibly in the West Shore. Yeah. But in the greater CRD, and see what the appetite might be. Mm-hmm. But again, I would welcome other councillors' comments, because I would be doing that on behalf of Metchosin in a way, in a preliminary sense. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay. And Councillor Gray, would you be willing to help Councillor Shukin with this?
I can help draft the letter.
Okay. And anybody else? Okay, I don't think we need a motion for that. The question is, are we going to send this to MIASC or not? I'm wondering, I'm going down the list of MIASC members and trying to think what each of them would say. They are an advisory committee. I think we could ask them, since they're meeting, if they have a comment. They may say, no, we have no comment, it's sufficient in here. They may even say, sign it. Yeah. But I think they are an advisory board that we trust, and I'd like to hear their opinion myself.
I would move that we forward the letter to MIASC for their input and comment.
Okay, so it's a motion on the table. Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Discussion. So this is a letter that we would ask MIASC for their input on this letter. Okay, and any discussion? Call a question. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Carried. And I just wanted to make a note to all of you. I think this is the kind of discussion, it's awkward, feels uncomfortable, but I think this is a good discussion for the community to hear that we're grappling with honestly. So thank you for that. Okay, moving right along to, I ripped off the front page, now I can't find it. It's here somewhere, thank you. Okay, that was correspondence A. Correspondence B, this is on page 39 of your council agenda, and this is the Sarah Beckett Memorial Run sponsorship letter. I just want to note, I think this sponsorship letter is more for businesses. That's how I read it. I guess we are a business in a way, but a municipal government. Everybody is also welcome to participate in the run. Have you had enough information? Does anybody want to comment on this? Is anybody planning on running? I think everybody's tired from running for the election.
I would like to make a comment.
Mm-hmm.
I did look at this, and I looked at the different tiers of sponsorship.
Yeah.
And municipalities sometimes do things like that. Our municipality actually did not for the senior games, just to make note of that. However, I think it might be more conducive to businesses, but they do also offer other sponsorship opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And this event will be taking place in the spring, and I would actually challenge the council to step up with me, and maybe we do something like the recovery food station or the handing out water bottles or something that sort of thing, like go out there and actually support them right on the scene on site.
That's an excellent, that's a wonderful idea that is in keeping with what they're asking for in terms of in-kind donations. I think that's great. I would take up that challenge. Any other comments?
I will take up the challenge as well.
Okay.
But I hope Councillor Donaldson is not also going to challenge us to go and do what she's doing on the 21st as well. She's very busy out in the community, so.
Okay. Any other
Challenge
comments?
accepted.
Councillor Ebb.
As long as I don't have to run.
Okay. Yeah. Councillor Donaldson, you could probably inquire whether we could walk the run. I'd be willing to fast walk the run with Councillor Ebb, but maybe
No,
not
I'm handing
that.
out water bottles, sorry.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else want to comment? Oh,
Yeah, the date isn't set yet. I did check out their website, and they are fundraising for two different organizations. The Boys and Girls Club of Vancouver Island, they actually have it here as Greater Victoria, but they now have renamed themselves, they're rebranding. And the Gold Stream Food Bank, which is also a very good cause.
okay. Okay, great. So you'll circulate something once you find dates. We'll leave that to you to bring forward
Yeah,
again?
they will be posting that in the new year.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much. Move on to the next correspondence. Actually, we have correspondence. I would like a motion to receive. This was a late items. Bev Bacon's correspondence and Andy McKinnon's correspondence on both of them on the old growth forest. It's these ones, your pink items. Is that okay?
Certainly, I'll move receipt of them.
Okay.
Second.
Move receipt of the new business supplemental agenda item, moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Discussion. Councillor Gray.
I feel like we already did that, so that's why I was hesitating.
No, it was on the agenda. I just wanted to acknowledge, since it was from the community members, it was late, it wasn't on the original agenda, so we need a receipt. Anybody else? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. No bylaws, seeing no other business. We have question period up to, 20 minutes maximum. Go ahead.
One of the things that previous council achieved was an agreement from Rogers and Telus to erect a cell phone tower on Garibaldi Mountain, which is there now. And from discussion on Facebook, I understand that East Souk now has full coverage. but not all of Metchosin does. There is absolutely no change in the cell phone coverage in my area. I wonder if council knows anything about that, whether we ever will get coverage, what's going on there.
Okay.
And if you don't, if you can find out.
Okay. What I do know from an early conference call this morning was that the cell tower is there. It is available for certain providers, not all providers. I do know that there has been some issues with TELUS as opposed to some of the other providers. They're hoping to bring those on in the next little while, but I will check with the province regarding their rural connectivity program.
Thank you.
And staff will remind me of that. Thank you. Oh,
Katie Nelson,
Thank you.
4596 William Head Road. A question for Councillor Donaldson and Councillor Shukin. I'm sorry I'm ignorant, but to me the letter from that they talked about, that everybody knows about, I don't understand. I mean, is it like we can only send one letter, and can't we have this come from a lot of different places? It's to me it sounded like you guys didn't want to sign it because you felt like it would mean you couldn't sign something else, or that it would be because of this organization. I mean, they're not for profit or anything, are they? Why can't we sign any letter that expresses those values and send it to whoever is willing to take it?
Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll ask the question. Anybody want to take that, Shelley? Or Councillor Donaldson?
On a personal level, I would do that, but because I'm representing a larger group, well, a community, I have to think about that more from a government perspective. So it's something I need to educate myself more on.
Right. Okay, here's the part I'm confused at. The community that you're representing has shown through various initiatives, including the 2016 one, and the fact that you guys got elected, that we care about this and it's important to us. So doesn't that mean that it's okay for us to send this letter?
I'm not disputing anybody sending the letter. I'm just saying, in my role as a councillor, I need to understand it from a government perspective.
Yeah, well, when I say us, I don't mean us people, I mean us community.
Yeah.
And I would echo Councillor Donaldson's perspective on this. And again, I'm personally very invested in actions to support a more enlightened approach to the issues we're facing with climate change. I have misgivings about signing on to this letter. And maybe, next year when I've inhabited this role and learned it a little bit better, I won't be and have that misgiving. But right now I do. And I hear what you're saying, Katie, about the community, but the community is broader than just like a relatively small group of people within a population of 5,000. So the community is quite diverse, and again, that is what I think I'm reflecting. So,
and if I may say, Katie, I didn't hear at the council table that there was an appetite to not sign the letter. What they were asking for is some more information, some more time. What we have given is a commitment to address this next month. Again. Okay.
Yeah,
so
right.
so I didn't hear from anybody that they were not understanding the climate emergency, nor that they wanted to make bold actions. They just didn't want to do it tonight.
Yes, and that's the part I was confused about.
Yeah.
Which was what is it that I'm not getting, that I don't understand, that needs to be considered?
Yeah.
That's I'm not asking that facetiously. I'm asking that.
I understand it's not a rhetorical question, Katie, but I think we're a new council. We've only been in for 6 days, 7 starting tomorrow, and I just think they just need a bit of time and to see the documentation for themselves regarding the resolution from 2016. That would give me a bit more comfortable,
That would,
a bit more comfort, and then we'll address this in December. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Anybody?
It's a really interesting discussion. I'm glad to hear you all debate this, and I do think that my hesitation in presenting it to you was also, is this something a municipality should take a stand on? And I do think because in 2016, you did as a municipality go forward and present this. Andy McKinnon actually took it to the UBCM, and then that was approved or whatever, and that a letter was written to the provincial government. The letter the provincial government wrote back to you about their assessment of old growth logging is also recorded, and I read it today, and they have not done anything. So we can stay within our little silos, all trying to do what we can. And it's great, we're all doing that. But unless we come together with all our different viewpoints, are we really going to make a difference? And so I agree with Steve, the leadership is what we're looking for. And this might be not the right place to show leadership, I don't know. But it's something you should consider, because this 2016 is a long time ago. A lot has been taken down since then. You went through the government channels. You had the municipalities all come in agreement. Nothing happened. So a creative solution has to be brought to the table, and this might be it. I would just suggest maybe it'd be more comfortable. We're calling this movement United for Old Growth Forests. Perhaps your interest in getting municipalities and government, you could join us at the rally and be Governments United for Old Growth Forest, or municipalities, or do something under a label you feel more comfortable. I don't want to discourage you from moving forward if you decide not to come on board, but I do think reviewing the 2016, which I have with me, and the UBCM minutes will make you inspired to maybe do something a little bit out of your comfort zone.
And the response from the government too. I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
That's what you.
I don't have the response with me, but
Yeah.
it's all online,
Okay.
just under.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Councillor.
I
Donaldson.
appreciate what you have to say, Joan. To be a better leader myself, even though the governments before me have made those decisions, I would really like to have all that information. I'd like to see what the UBCM, any of the reports, any of that sort of stuff, because in theory I would sign it, but I would like to make a much better informed decision as a representative government.
Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
that's
And I
really
like
good.
the name. The name is fine. It doesn't need any changes to that. I just need more information to make a better decision
Yeah.
for the constituents.
And I can definitely forward that all to you. It's very available.
Okay.
And you can read what has happened. And it did come up with UBCM again, I think in 2021. I don't know what happened there. Or in 2019, I saw it again. So,
Okay.
yeah. So thanks for the discussion.
Thank you. Anybody else? Public questions?
This might have just come up and surprised you, this letter and the fact that it would be discussed. Could I just ask each of you to tell me if you've read the submission that we're asking you to sign, and if you've read all the people who signed on to it?
Yes.
Yes and yes?
to both, yes.
Yes and yes? Yes and yes?
I read the material and then did, I guess as Joan did, and went online and looked at the other information, because I received this on Friday. I thought I needed to be prepared for the meeting, so I went through and took a look at all those documents, and that's what gave me the confidence to make a motion this evening.
And have you read the letter and the signatures? Yeah, I'd just like to point out that the doctors signed on, and it's not a matter of doctors staying in their own lane, and nurses signed on, and it's not a matter of nurses staying in their own lane. So I don't, as my representatives, I don't expect you to stay in your own lane. I want you to show leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Bev. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Moved by
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. I just want to remind Council we recess